Hello, Federal viewers. Welcome to the latest episode of the Federal's Worldly Wise, a weekly video show that takes a deep, hard look into the trending international issues with our consulting editor, K.S. Dakshina Murthy, a specialist in international politics. The world is waiting with tension to see if the fragile ceasefire in the Iran war holds. A day since the ceasefire was agreed between Iran and the United States, things already look a little shaky. Israel has bombed Lebanon, killing 182 residents in the capital Beirut. And its Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is insisting that Lebanon is not a part of the ceasefire deal. Let's go straight to Dakshina Murthy to discuss Israel's role in the war against Iran, its agenda, whether it wants peace or continuation of the war. Welcome, Dakshin, sir, to the show. Sir, my first question to you is: will the ceasefire survive?
Uh, that is really the question I think the entire world is asking. It looks pretty shaky. Basically, if you look at Israel, Israel seems to be holding all the cards because if you look back, say in June 2025, that is last year, when negotiations were on, it was Israel which sabotaged the talks, and Israel and the US started bombing Iran. The same thing happened this year as well when talks were going on until February 27th. And then on 28th, you had this attack. And again, this is attributed to Israel influencing Trump. And so this was the second time that this has happened. Now, if you come to the latest one, what are the red flags in the ceasefire deal? One is about Lebanon. Lebanon got involved in this war because Hezbollah, which is a close ally of Iran, it fired rockets into Israel after the assassination of the Iranian supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, because and then Israel was pretty, of course, obviously they were angry and they retaliated against the Hezbollah, and that has continued till now. And Hezbollah has also been fighting, but then Israel is continuing to attack Lebanon, and not only that, they have increased and they have actually captured southern Lebanon till a very large point, till a strategic position, and they're continuing to hold it and expand. So Lebanon is in a kind of a war with Israel, which is not directly in any way linked to what Israel and the US did in Iran, but it's linked because of the reaction of Hezbollah. Now, this is one point. So when the ceasefire was what happened, Pakistan was very clear that the ceasefire included Lebanon as well. And Iran's 10-point deal, which Trump said the US had accepted, had Lebanon as part of the peace deal. And it appeared that the US also had agreed to it. But Netanyahu welcomed the ceasefire deal but said Lebanon is not part of it. And the US has not contested that, which means that Trump is still giving a massive leeway to Netanyahu. And this can again, backfire on the ceasefire deal. Already there have been reports today that Iran has warned that it will shut the Hormuz Strait. In fact, some reports say it has already again shut the Hormuz Strait, which means that the US will again retaliate, because if you recollect, it was the issue over the Hormuz Strait over which Trump said he's going to bomb out Iran and bomb the Iranian civilization and all that. So we are again coming back to square one. So definitely the ceasefire is in jeopardy. In fact, the funny part is the negotiations themselves haven't started. That they are scheduled to start only tomorrow. In fact, the US Vice President J.D. Vance is supposed to come to Islamabad, and then the negotiations are supposed to start on Saturday. He's going to come tomorrow, and so this is the latest. But we have not even reached that point. Even before that, Israel has shown its total disinclination towards the ceasefire and Lebanon's involvement, whether Lebanon is part of it, and it has already bombed. So it's again pushing this entire peace deal into a corner. So definitely it is shaky. Now it depends on how Iran reacts. It depends on what the US says. So far, it's a little early in the day, and there have been no major reactions, but there is an element of doubt that has crept in. It was already there, now it has become bigger. So let's see how it goes.
Right. Sir, why is Israel insisting that Lebanon is not a part of this deal?
See, as far as Israel is concerned, Israel has a massive issue with the Hezbollah in Lebanon. See, in Lebanon, the Hezbollah is a militia. Okay, plus the Hezbollah is also a political party. So the Hezbollah plays a major role in Lebanese politics, also because in 1982, when Israel occupied Lebanon, it was the Hezbollah which pushed out Israel from Lebanon, and so it got a massive reputation within Lebanon, and then Lebanon is Shia dominated, and Hezbollah is represents this particular community. So it has a very strong hold. It has members of parliament in the Lebanese parliament, plus it has ministers. So it's a very powerful group. But if you take, then the question is, you may ask, what about the Lebanese army? The Lebanese army is a kind of a, we can say, an army that does not seem to have that much power because much of the power lies with the Hezbollah. Though it's the Lebanese army, which is the constitutionally recognized army of Lebanon. So and it has a long history. Between 1975 and 1990, there was a massive civil war in Lebanon, where this split happened. These fault lines opened up, and then you have the Hezbollah, then you have the Lebanese army, then you have the Lebanese government, then you have the Hezbollah leadership. So each one is a power center, and the Hezbollah power center is powerful, and the Hezbollah is very much anti-Israel. So for Netanyahu, there were two objects, or for Israel, there were two objects which they wanted to somehow neutralize. One was the Hezbollah, and the other was Iran. So Iran, it has to some extent succeeded by convincing the US to target Iran, and we have had this clash now for the last 38 days. Plus, we had a 12-day war last year. But as far as the Hezbollah is concerned, there was, after a string of attacks on Hezbollah, because Hezbollah also retaliated against the Hamas. When the Hamas attacked Israel and Israel retaliated, Hezbollah came to the support of Hamas, and then in Gaza. So, and then Israel took on the Lebanon, and there was massive bombing that happened. Then after that, there was some kind of a agreement that Hezbollah would disarm, and the Lebanese army would become the only army in Lebanon. But somewhere this did not happen. So for Netanyahu, this is a great opportunity to now again attack Hezbollah and neutralize this what it considers an existential threat, like what it considers Iran to be an existential threat. So that is the reason why Netanyahu doesn't want to let go of Lebanon. He wants to continue bombing Lebanon, despite the fact that the ceasefire has been done.
Right. Sir, what is so special about the relationship between Netanyahu and Trump?
Yeah, so this is the other thing about this relationship. If you take Netanyahu, for the last many years, he has tried to convince American presidents, including Obama, George W. Bush, even, and then to somehow, and and even Biden, so to attack Iran, but none of them agreed because the US knew that it would not be an easy task to attack Iran and do some kind of a regime change. But Trump, being Trump, what he has done is he has managed to, he has gone ahead with Netanyahu. So the question is, what is it that makes him so close to Netanyahu? There are a lot of conspiracy theories about their particular relationship, but we'll not get into that because conspiracy theories are just that, conspiracies. But if you take what happened during Trump's first term, okay, during Trump's first term, uh, Trump walked out of the Iran nuclear deal, which had been signed by Barack Obama. Okay, now he walked out of the Iran nuclear deal because of pressure from Israel, because Israel did not want this peace deal between Iran and the rest of the world, and the US and Europe and all that. So, and Trump obliged by breaking the deal in 2018 during his first term, and he also shifted the US consulate from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, indirectly recognizing Jerusalem to be the capital, which is contested because it is not recognized under international law. You know that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, but Trump went ahead, recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and shifted the consulate there. So these, and then when these two things happened, he was there was no great response from anyone. And then last year, in tandem with Israel, they attacked Iran. Again, there was not too much of a reaction, and in 12 days, they managed to hit out at the nuclear facility in Iran, and
Yeah.
and the war ended. So Trump thought that even this time he could attack Iran along with Israel and get away with it, but he never expected the kind of response from Iran. So their entire plan went into a kind of a tizzy. So the question is, why is Trump so close to Israel, or why is Trump so close to Netanyahu? More than Netanyahu at a personal level, of course, they are very close to each other, and personal relationships can happen in international politics. Two leaders of two countries can be quite close to each other for various reasons. They may have had a long history of agreement. Maybe they appreciate each other's points of view, etc., etc. But as far as Trump is concerned, within the US, he's heavily backed. He's funded. His election is funded by the IPAC. It's the American-Israeli Political Action Committee, which is a very powerful body in the US. So the IPAC supports Trump. And not only that, another big MAGA base or the Republican base are evangelical Christians in the US, who are also very close to Israel, who are very close to Israel, and they are very pro-Israel in their political view. All these groups have backed Trump. So invariably, you will know that any president or any leader who gets elected by a certain constituency of certain kind will naturally oblige that constituency. So that is the other reason why Trump is so close to Israel, and he does whatever Netanyahu asks for. So it's because of the backing that he has enjoyed within the US and the funding that he has enjoyed, and he's come to power. In fact, he's been elected to power because of this massive push within the US. So this is the reason why Netanyahu and Trump are so close, and Trump being what he is, he doesn't listen to anyone. So he, is completely influenced by Netanyahu, unfortunately. Of course, there are those who say that, yes, even if Netanyahu had influenced Trump, the final decision has been Trump's. It is not, Netanyahu who has dictated it. But this is a gray area. One can look at it in both ways.
Right. So, what makes Israel so powerful that it's able to defy the entire world?
Yeah. So if you take Israel, and then if you take its attack on Gaza after the Hamas attack. See, Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, I think, 2023. And Israel was completely shocked. And then in reaction, Israel disproportionately retaliated to the point where its assault on Gaza went on for nearly 2 years. And it is seen by many as a genocidal attack. In fact, there are cases in the International Court of Justice which want this attack to be formally recognized as a genocide. And then about 72,000 people died in Gaza, and Gaza has been completely leveled to a very large extent. So today, if you look at a video of Gaza or a picture of Gaza, it's very apocalyptic. It is also, but then how did Netanyahu continue to attack Gaza while the rest of the world was watching? Now, why is it? What is it that makes him so powerful? Because in the international scheme of things, you have a situation where it is only the UN Security Council that can authorize a international kind of a confederation or a coalition that can challenge any other country. But for the UN Security Council to pass the resolution, all the five members, the permanent members, have to okay it. So even if one person, even if one country vetoes it, it cannot happen. So the US has been protecting Israel for the last 7 decades. In fact, from 1948 onwards, the US has protected Israel, and it has insulated Israel from any international reaction. So that was the reason why Netanyahu has been able to do whatever he wants without any great kind of other than a public outcry or a large protest. He has nothing has happened. Nothing has been. The world has not been able to do anything to control Netanyahu and Israel. I mean, so Israel, Netanyahu is the prime minister now. There have been other prime ministers as well. There's not too much of a difference as far as the country is concerned, because they have gone about occupying this entire region that was once called Palestine. And then even the West Bank and Gaza, where the Palestinians live, is largely occupied by Israel. And after Gaza, the attack on Gaza, now it's about 50%. You have troops, Israeli troops, on the ground. So all this has been able to do because of support from the US. And if you look at Trump, we know that he's unpredictable. But even Joe Biden, the previous president,
Right.
supported Israel's action in Gaza, and then he was able to, so not only support support in terms of funds, in support, in terms of weapons and all that. So the US has been totally backing Israel. So Trump, and so he's continuing with that, and this time Trump has fulfilled one of the biggest agendas of Israel, which was to attack Iran. And then the rest of the world is simply unable to do anything. So it means that there is fundamentally something wrong with the world international order, and the US has utilized it effectively. Israel also has utilized it effectively to do whatever they want with no questions asked.
Right. So my last question to you is there none in the world to hold Israel actually, and the US is accountable for this?
See, this is the issue that, in fact, I was just answering you, that it's only the UN Security Council which has formally the powers to intervene in any country. For instance, when the 9/11 attacks happened, and when the 9/11 attacks happened, and when the US found out that the Al Qaeda leaders, Osama bin Laden, were in Afghanistan, and they attributed this 9/11 attacks to Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden, and then they wanted Afghanistan to give up the Al Qaeda leaders, to surrender them to the US for legal action. Now Afghanistan refused to do it. So what did the US do? It went to the UN Security Council. It the All the other countries were sympathetic with the US at that point in time. So they formed a coalition, and it was this coalition which actually went to Afghanistan, which means that it had an international recognition, right? So the next time around in Iraq, when the US under George W. Bush wanted the okay of the UN Security Council, the UN, some of the allies of the US, including France and Britain, refused to accept the US request. So what the US did was, even before the meeting of the resolution, which would have rejected the plea by the US, the US went ahead and attacked, which means it completely ignored the UN Security Council. This time around, as far as Iran is concerned, the one that happened last year and this year, the US has completely disregarded the United Nations totally. And not only did they disregard the United Nations totally, they've also not bothered about the reservations expressed by their allies, in NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is a US led military alliance from the Cold War times. And then and many countries in Europe are part of the NATO alliance. But Trump did not consult with them, did not do anything. So, which means even the European nations were unable to prevent Trump from going ahead with this. So, what it effectively means is that as today, there is no particular organization or a coalition of countries which can stop the US or Israel from doing what they want. So, if you take, say, China and Russia, China now, there are reports which claim that it was China which was behind Pakistan, and China played a major role in the negotiations that happened and the ceasefire that was declared. So it used Pakistan, which is close to Beijing, to kind of broker a deal, and China is also close to Iran. So China used its clout for Iran to make them agree to a ceasefire deal. But
Right.
whether China has a similar influence on the US is very doubtful, because China has not come out into the open for whatever their reasons, their strategic reasons, or for what reasons. It's still unclear. But China has been playing the role behind the scenes, So Russia too has played some kind of a role, but again, they have been very minimal. So what does it show? It shows that today in the current world, the sad reality is that there is none to prevent the US from doing what it wants. So that is also the reason why the European countries went into a tizzy. They got into a panic when Trump said he's going to send troops into Greenland and occupy Greenland. And
Right.
Greenland is, part of Denmark, which is a US ally. So they had to use their relationship with Trump. The NATO countries, Europe, had to use their clout or friendly relationship with the US to somehow convince them not to do it. So, but then if Trump had decided and gone ahead with the, attacking or occupying Greenland, it would have created an unprecedented situation where there may have been some kind of a conflict between allies. But thankfully, none of this happened. Trump said he's backing off, and so as of the moment, there is status quo. Nothing has happened. But as far as Iran is concerned, there is really no great pressure on Israel and the US, which is a sad reflection of the international world order. So it basically means that it's the rule of the mighty and the survival of the fittest. So that's what we are seeing today in the Middle East or West Asia.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining and sharing your insights. Viewers, for more information, stay tuned to the Federal.